Welcome in, everybody, to Catfish on Ice with Chad Minton and Max Greenberg. Off-season. We are in the depths of the off-season as Nashville Predators fans, unfortunately. But the first round of the Stanley Cup Playoffs, they are not disappointing.
No.
Max, how are you, man? How are you?
I'm great. I'm ready for this podcast. I got hockey right on the TV in front of me. You guys can't hear; it's on mute, but you got it right in front of me.
Yeah, we got Minnesota and Vegas tied at 2-2 in the series. It's back in Vegas. The entire first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs here in 2025 has just been as perfect as you could have hoped for if you're the NHL right now.
Oh,
because every series has been competitive. There's been no sweeps. And I mean, it's why we always say, Max, that the Stanley Cup is the hardest trophy to win in sports, because you have to win 28 games in the Stanley Cup playoffs in this type of. There's no playing 16.
What's that? You have to win 16. You're thinking of series, so it's like best of 28 essentially. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. But I'm saying, my point is, there's no buys, there's no first round buys like in the NFL. There's no play-in tournaments. There's no you're in. You got to win. You got to win 4-game series. 4 times, yeah,
and just the physicality of the playoffs. And I don't know if I'm sure you've seen, Chad, but there's every year they always have cool commercials, and this year they have the one commercial stuff at the Stanley Cup. They're like, it takes from you, and they show pictures of guys just hurt, bloodied, all kinds of stuff. Like, that's the Stanley Cup playoffs for you.
That Tampa Florida game last night, both teams scored 2 goals in 11 seconds. The Ekblad hit. I mean, I'm down here in Tampa, man, and it's not pretty.
I thought the Mikkola hit might have been worse.
Oh, the Mikkola hit was definitely worse.
Mikkola hit was bad. That was
but that's how Florida plays, though. I mean, I hate to ever call a team dirty, but Florida has played this way for a while. This is their moniker. This is what they do. They live and die by it. And I mean, they're up 3-1 in the series. Can they survive without Ekblad for 2 games? They're already up 3-1. Tampa's trying to match that physicality, and they are a physical team as well, but Florida is the cream of the crop when it comes to playing physical hockey.
They already were before they got Brad Marchand.
They are a bully type of hockey team, but they're also a skilled hockey team. They got the best of both worlds. Florida is a mess to deal with. And they push the boundaries, and their coach, Paul Maurice, embodies them perfectly. John Cooper, both those head coaches are trading jabs in the press conferences. But, I mean, it's not just that series. It's this entire first-round Stanley Cup playoffs, we just saw Ottawa go out and win 4-0 over Toronto to get back. You know, Toronto's got the curse hanging over them where they always crap the bed every year. All of a sudden, they got to go back to Ottawa. You know, the Battle of Ontario. Yeah. They got to go back to Ottawa. I mean, no one's really talking about Minnesota and Vegas this series, but it's tied 2-2.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be a huge upset if Minnesota could pull that up. How about St. Louis and Winnipeg? They're 2-2 right now.
I think St. Louis is going to win that series because right now the Jets just got tied up, and Connor Hellebuyck has just got pulled twice in 2 straight games.
And we're talking about all these series, and we haven't even gotten to what was probably the best advertised first round series, which was Colorado and Dallas. And
every bit of such.
And you know, Dallas is up 3-2 in that series now, but that series has been. Each game of that series has been a bloodbath and been back and forth. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if Colorado comes back and wins that series. It's just the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs has just been so as good as advertised. But here on this Nashville Predators podcast, we also have to get into some really crazy stuff, even though we are in the offseason when it comes to the Predators. And a lot of the guys are probably on the golf course right now. They're probably trying to unwind. I totally understand that. Milwaukee Admirals, they're in the playoffs right now. Their playoff series is starting soon. And some guys who were playing big minutes for the Predators are now playing for the Admirals. So that's important stuff there. But we got to talk about this. Mike Sullivan, the most coveted head coach you could ask for to hit the market. And we're wondering, the Vegas just scored, by the way.
I saw that. Yep.
We're a little under 8 minutes into
the game. It was a shorthanded goal too.
A little over 8 minutes into regulation. Vegas goes up 1-0 on Minnesota. They're at home. It's game 5. The series is tied at 2. But we're all asking ourselves, what is Barry Trotz thinking? What is he doing right now? We're all waiting for his off-season press conference, which he hasn't even done. We saw the players do the press conference. We saw Andrew Brunette give comments about, oh, yeah, I want to coach this team. He gave the politically correct responses on this. We have not heard from Barry Trotz yet, Max. And it's really a weird feeling for the fan base right now.
Serious.
And look at that. Minnesota answers. Is that what your look was on your face?
Was that Kaprizov? I think it was.
I mean, here we go. Just like I was just saying. Yeah, it was. It was Kaprizov.
That is such a different team with him. I mean, not that it's saying much, but I mean, it's amazing how much different that team is when he's out there and when he's not out there.
These are the Stanley Cup playoffs, folks, right here. I mean, never rest. Never rest. Never think you're doing. I mean, that's a crazy goal, though, to give up there by Vegas. It looked like they were in position to stop that puck. 5th goal already of this postseason by Kaprizov.
Insane.
Game 5, 5 goals, 5 goals in 5 games. But we're all wondering, what is Trotz doing right now? Like, really, what is he doing? I mean, he hasn't come out and fully backed Andrew Brunette yet for 2025-26. Yep. Meanwhile, you've got, last I checked, 8 teams who have vacancies right now. The Vancouver Canucks are the latest team today.
Yeah.
To mutually part ways with their head coach. So it's like, what is going on right now? The head coaching carousel continues. We all know that the shelf life for NHL head coach is like, what, 5 years on average? 4 or 5 years?
Yeah.
Andrew Brunette's got 2 under his belt right now. He's got 1 year where I would say he overperformed.
Yeah.
His first year. And then his second year was a drastic failure. So it's like, where's the in between here? So it makes me think that Barry Trotz is going to give him another year.
I think
on a short leash. We're just too far into the offseason. And I've gotten friends on push back on me on that in the past week, saying, "Oh no, Trotz hasn't come out and backed him yet, so that means he's still thinking about it." But it's such an odd dynamic. I don't know. I mean, if I wake up tomorrow to the notification that Andrew Brunette's fired, it wouldn't entirely shock me. But then I would have to naturally ask myself, why did you wait so long, Barry?
He's probably waiting for a domino or two to fall, and maybe Mike Sullivan.
But now you've already put yourself in a sweepstakes with 8 other teams. Do the odds. Are you really going to land Mike Sullivan? If you fire Brunette just because you want Mike Sullivan, that's not a good GM.
Well, no, I'm not saying that. But again, I'm just saying I don't know. I'm just saying I don't know what Barry Trotz is thinking. Maybe that's part of his thought process. Again, I don't know what's going on. I'm just saying what could be going on. I'm not saying it's good or bad.
Yeah, I don't think any of us knows. So we're going to get into that more deeply there. But this one's a touchy topic here. But it's been weighing on me. I put an article out there on Predlines about it. I love Roman Josi. He's one of my favorite players all time of the Predators. He is such. He's right up there with Shea Weber. If anything, it's Shea Weber A1 and it's Roman Josi A2. When it comes to skaters, we're not talking about Pecorine. He's in a class of his own. He's a goalie. When we're talking about skaters for the Predators, Shea Weber really transformed this franchise when he came along. But Roman Josi came up right under Shea Weber's wing and kind of took over the mantle. And his Norris Trophy level stats have never really faltered, But this past season, to no fault of his own, he had a team around him that was in flux, that wasn't meshing well. And then he suffers another head injury, another concussion, and it's just scary stuff. And I'm not knocking the player. I'm just being an objective fan right now, that I'm really worried about if this is really the beginning of the end for Roman Josi when it comes to playing at that high level. The Norris Trophy finalists just got announced today. And I mean, he's not far removed from being in that conversation every year. But I have to wonder if we have to go ahead and realize that he's no longer going to be at that level anymore. And he says he's ready to go next year, and I believe him. And I think he will play. He will be ready to go next year. But at what level is he going to be ready to go? And who's going to play with him on that line? Me and Max really have to talk about that, because I don't think the Predators have a clear answer on who is going to play with Roman Josi next year.
No,
they don't.
Not at all.
We're gonna list our most irrelevant teams over the last 5 years in the NHL. We're gonna throw teams out there, and are the Predators one of those teams? And when I say irrelevant, I don't mean like success. I just mean like, do fans around the league actually pay attention to these teams? Or are these teams, like, what do the Predators have to do? And I know Trotz tried to make them relevant, and the Predators did become relevant last offseason by getting Stamkos, Marchessault, and Shea. And they became relevant for a bad reason this past year by being one of the most disappointing teams we can remember in a long time. Yeah. So they are the butt of a lot of jokes right now in the around the NHL circles for what happened. And now Trotz is really scrambling. He's got to figure out a way to, this team's always been a good regular season team, but that doesn't necessarily you're in a small market. We know that Bridgestone Arena is getting this new overhaul, all these renovations. What does that have to do with it? Like, I mean, clearly Nashville is a destination for hockey when it comes to away fans coming to see the Predators play. They want to come to Nashville. So that's not going to go away. But how do we make the Predators a more relevant franchise around the NHL? Like when they reached that peak in 2017, and even in 2018 they win the President's Trophy. But they've become irrelevant over the last couple of years. Even when they made the playoffs, they've become irrelevant around the league.
To answer your question, Chad, and to kind of contradict a little bit what you said, the way they become more relevant is winning. And
they've won though. They've won in the past.
Notably winning. I'm talking being like legit like contenders in your division. Like we're not like wild cardish. No, like real winning.
Yeah, win a playoff series.
If not, or just like get out of a wild card. I'm just like something. Like be like one of the teams in your division at least.
And then finally, we got a couple other things to hit on here. We're going to do our love to hate players. These playoffs has really reminded me of watching some of these goons in the NHL that are still great players. And me just thinking, man, I would still love to have that player on my team, even though I can't stand watching this player. There's a bunch of them playing in this year's playoffs that if they were in a Predators uniform, I probably wouldn't hate them as much. But I still love to hate them. And hate's a strong word. I don't hate anybody, but you know what I'm saying. From a sports perspective, I love to hate these players. And we'll get Max's thoughts on that as well. We're going to say it from a Predators fan's perspective. We've done this segment before in the past on this episode, way a long time ago. Let's see how much my thoughts have changed. I think Rich was on the show back then, and we talked about it a long time ago. But we're gonna rehash that segment tonight because it's always fun. Because hockey's a fun sport where we love to hate players, but if those players were on our team, we would cheer for them.
Of course.
And then we got to get a Titans segment in tonight. Titans time, because Max, my very multi-talented co-host, has been neck deep in NFL draft coverage. He's about to switch gears to the NHL draft.
Yep.
But NFL draft, I was into it as well. Of course, Shedeur Sanders stole the show and stole all the headlines.
Insane.
That was crazy. Yeah, I mean,
Mel Kiper.
But Mel Kiper. I made multiple calls to Mel Kiper to be on the show tonight, but he just wouldn't answer my calls. I mean, I don't know if his DMs aren't open or what, but I guess he's just too busy right now.
Exactly.
But anyway, yeah, we got to talk about our guy Cam Ward, of course. I mean, we're Titans. He's the number one pick for crying out loud. And it's like, I mean, no one talked about him, at least not on ESPN anyway, which is where most drafts were on.
They were talking about Shedeur literally so much, even we were on the clock, that I almost got scared for a second. Like, wait, are we going to pick Shedeur? We're going to just shock the world and take Shedeur? I was like, everything there, like, there was to talk about Shedeur. I won't go on that tangent too much, but yeah.
I've never seen so much disrespect for a number one pick. Now, I will say on social media, if you really go deep, there are a lot of people giving Cam Ward his respect. But I want to get more. I really don't want to dive into the weeds when it comes to Shedeur Sanders, because that's not our podcast. We're not. Like, I mean, we can touch on it lightly when we get to that segment, Max. But really, I want to give love. Oh, Vegas just went back ahead 2-1, by the way. Mark Stone with the goal.
I think I'm slightly ahead of you in this game, just by a bit.
Mark Stone looks like he gets the goal there. Jack Eichel just doing ridiculous things, winning puck battles.
Nice screen in front by William Karlsson.
Yes. Mark Stone with a blast in the slot, one-timer from Jack Eichel. Mark Stone's one of those players you can throw in your love to hate category from a lot of people. But 38th career playoff goal there, but first of the series there for Mark Stone.
But
yeah.
That should not be challenged.
But anyway, yeah, so we are going to get some good Titans reps in tonight, because the more I look into Cam Ward and just his background, his story, and everything, the more I've just researched it. I mean, even if I wasn't a fan of the Titans, I'd just be all on board for pulling for this guy to just do great things in the NFL. So that's going to be a fun way to wrap up episode 267 of Catfish on Ice, brought to you by DraftKings and part of the Hockey Podcast Network. Let's get to it with our opening face-off here, which is, let's get into it with Andrew Brunette and Mike Sullivan now being on the market. And Max, realistically speaking, man, it's a fantasy for me. I would love for it to happen. I would love for Barry Trotz to come out yesterday, honestly, or a week ago, and say, and you remember, Max, mid-season, I was so much on the other side of the fence. I was supporting Andrew Brunell, saying, guys, we got to calm down. I was still criticizing a lot of the things he was doing, but I was trying to tell everybody, calm down. He's in year 2. Let's think about what he did in the first year. Jack Adams finalist. Like, let's pump the brakes. But, you know, in sports, you're allowed to change your mind as things happen. And that's what I did. And, you know, I thought that if he was going to be let go, I thought he was going to be let go very shortly after the season ended. Like, pretty much within a few days, I thought that he was going to be let go if it was going to happen. And it hasn't happened yet. And there's been plenty of time for Barry Trotz to think about it. And if he jumps the gun and fires Andrew Brunette now, I think it's going to look really bad on his part, because it's going to look like he's saying, hey, I was going to keep you until I saw this guy come on the market. Now I got to get rid of you. That's a bad look, in my opinion, if Barry Trotz goes that route. So I think it's not going to happen. It's a fantasy. I would love to have Mike Sullivan as the next head coach of the Nashville Predators. But the timing just doesn't work anymore. You've already proven that you're not going to fire Andrew Brunette. You've waited this deep into your last game ending, and you let everything happen the way it happened. You're riding with Andrew Brunette in year 3. I don't see any way out of it.
Yeah, you know, everyone who's seen anything that I've said has known that I'm not on the fire Andrew Brunette train nearly like a lot of people are. But, you know, Mike Sullivan is one of those guys that if you brought him in, I certainly wouldn't complain about that. Mike Sullivan's track record obviously speaks for itself. I think, you know, I'm commenting kind of on the point you made about, like what you said, you know, if you're firing Andrew Brunette now, you're kind of making it look, oh, I was going to keep you, but now I'm not. I could see that, and that could be the scenario, but you don't quite know what's going on there, because again, we saw Sullivan get fired yesterday. We just saw Rick Tocchet leave the Canucks. He actually didn't get fired. He apparently just left them, which is another situation.
And apparently the Mike Sullivan thing is also a mutual parting of
Really?
ways. They disagreed.
Okay.
Yeah, they disagreed on the future of the team and the franchise. So that wasn't necessarily a full-blown firing as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that changes it a little bit. I guess what's still fairly fresh in my mind, and it's certainly a different situation 2 years ago because Barry Trotz was becoming GM at that point. He had pretty much, because remember that summer, we didn't know about a coaching change till, what was it, like late May, when John Hines was out and Andrew Brunette was brought in. That time Barry Trotz had told the previous staff that evaluations would continue through the end of May. So he had told them, so nothing was done. He didn't like blindside anyone there. Although again, that's different because he's a brand new GM at that point. So different situations. So ultimately, I agree. I don't think Andrew Brunette's going anywhere. I think he's going to be kept. And at the end of the day, I don't hate it because again, I recognize the guy's got his faults. He can be a bit slow. He can be slow to adjust, and the younger guys, he hasn't gotten as much of the young guys as we hope. But overall, when you look at his overall track record, not even just last year, like he went into Florida his first year. That team won the President's Trophy like literally a few days into the year. Of course, that team was super talented, but he obviously wasn't a terrible coach for them to I imagine he was probably a pretty good coach for them to be able to essentially pick up right where they left off, learning a new system that people always say is pretty tough to learn quickly. And one thing I will say about Andrew Brunette last year that I've seen a lot of people make the case, just asking just how much credit does Andrew Brunette deserve for last year, and I sort of get it because from the standpoint of some teams just go on a winning streak from time to time, and that just kind of happens. Maybe it's a fluke sometimes, it's not. But when I look at it's not just that they won on a winning streak last year that the Preds did. Everyone remembers, of course, the whole 18-game point streak. But people forget, like in November and December, the Preds had a 13-3-0 stretch. They had two separate instances of big winning streaks. Also, he got big years out of guys like Gus Nyquist, who had 52 or 53 assists. I'm like, how does that happen? Jeremy Lauzon also had a huge year for his development. Colton Sissons had a really good year in terms of scoring and assists. And his shooting percentage, I don't think was even crazy high it was. And again, you just take that team the Preds had. Last year, the Preds had a bad roster. Even after the trade deadline, I would say the Preds had a bad roster, and they got to 100 points. And again, I know this year didn't turn out great. And there's things definitely could have gotten that could have been better. But ultimately, I don't think Andrew Brunette is the issue. And I always say the one thing I always say that I come back to is if you don't love Andrew Brunette, you think he should be gone. I'm not going to argue with you too much, but where I will not drop is that he is only a symptom of the situation. He is not the main change that needs to happen. He is only a symptom at best.
I think the number one way you can defend Andrew Brunette right now is time. He's been here for 2 years, but that's why I put up this little list right here. Fair or not, the NHL recycles head coaches like people change their underwear. Like, I mean, seriously. I mean, look at this. This list blows my mind. And I fact-checked this to make sure this was right, but it is from a pretty reputable source that shares a lot of pretty good stats and notes around the league. But these are your longest tenured NHL head coaches post Mike Sullivan, which was one of the longest tenureds. John Cooper, March 2013 of the Tampa Bay Lightning. He's not going anywhere. Even if the Lightning lose in this first round, that would have to be another Mike Sullivan situation where it's mutually agreed upon or something. He's safe. I mean, he's already accomplished what he needs to accomplish. But still, literally, like they're already hearing chatter about. I'm already hearing chatter about if the Lightning lose this series against the Panthers, is John Cooper on the hot seat? That's what happens in this league. Like the margin for error for head coaches in the NHL is like crazy. Jared Bednar, Jared Bednar's second longest
Are
tenure.
people really talking about John Cooper on the hot seat?
No, not like in serious terms. He's probably like 99% safe. I'm just saying, like,
there might not be. There are a few coaches in the league who I think would be safer than John Cooper.
But the point I'm trying to say is, like, fans are already starting to turn on him. Is my point. Jared Bednar, August 2016. That's the second longest tenured coach. A lot of success in the playoffs, the Stanley Cup to boot. So yeah, very interesting. The third longest tenured head coach does not have a Stanley Cup yet, but he has a lot of fanfare in the league. And that's Rod Brind'Amour. May 2018 is when he joined the Carolina Hurricanes. Former player, a lot of swagger to the way he carries the locker room. He's May 2018, so that's 7 years. After that, your next longest coach is Andre Tourigny, July 2021, Utah Hockey Club, or in other words, formerly known as the Arizona Coyotes. Fourth longest tenured head coach. Then you got Martin St. Louis, February 2022. Your fifth longest tenured head coach in the NHL is 2022 for the Montreal Canadiens. Who the Canadiens, his stock is going up for sure.
Oh yeah.
But my point is this: that's crazy. You've basically got three head coaches in the league right now who feel pretty safe, like they can't be touched. The rest of the league, it's like, who knows? They haven't been there very long. You get where I'm going with this, Max, right?
Oh yeah, no, 100%.
And this is an argument. This is an argument towards keeping Andrew Brunette in the sense that we got to break this cycle of NHL. Like maybe the NHL is wrong, and like maybe this whole thought process of let's just like ditch a guy after a couple years because we didn't get the results we wanted. But I'm telling you, Andrew Brunette does not have the fan base. And I'm not saying you fire him because of that. But, I mean, the fan base wants Andrew Brunette gone. And if he's back game one of next season, which is leaning that way, I think there's going to be a lot of fans who are going to be really ticked off. And I'm not saying that I'm not in that camp. I'm going to support this team. I'm bought into the retool. I'm bought into it. My expectations are low. I was very much fooled this past offseason, and now I got to bring those expectations to an all-time low. And I'm going to turn on Andrew Brunette if he's the head coach next year. I'm going to turn on him really fast, more so that right now I'm very untrustworthy of him. I'm very neutral. I don't know how to feel about Andrew Brunette. I'm not excited about him. I'm not hating on him like some of these fans are. I'm very much despondent. I don't have a feeling. I'm very lukewarm when it comes to Andrew.
I feel like this fan base has made me seem like the biggest Andrew Brunette defender in the whole world.
Yeah, is Brunette on the name of the jersey you're wearing right now?
Yeah, exactly.
But seriously though, no, I get where you're coming from. I mean, I'm very much the same way. Oh, the boxes are going all over the place. Oh, look, we're flying all over the place. There we go. But yeah, that was kind of fun there. Watch this all go all over the place. But yeah, I want to give him a chance because we're going into year 3.
Right.
And I want to see how this is really where a coach can earn his money right now. This is really where Andrew Brunette can prove if he's truly going to, because he's still very much new to the head coaching game.
He is.
People don't realize. I mean, he had a very, very short stint with the Florida Panthers and had some success there, but they went with Paul Maurice over Andrew Brunette. Looks like it was a great decision, obviously, but I mean, the guy is very still new to NHL head coaching, so he's kind of coaching for his life, honestly. He'll probably land somewhere else if the Predators fire him because that's how this league operates. But my point is it's year 3. This should be his make or break year.
I agree.
in coaching, and I think we should at least
for the Preds,
and we should give him that chance to see what he can get out of this roster. Now, I will say the comments from the players did not help his cause at all, and I think that's another reason why
that's fair.
Barry Trotz is having to chew on a lot. Jonathan Marchessault's comments did not give you any reason to think this locker room is behind Andrew Brunette right now.
Yeah, no, he definitely said some things that, you hope he can, you hope that Andrew Brunette can hear that and learn from that. But yeah, that's definitely partly a red flag. But again, I'm not of the opinion of like, oh, you have to keep Andrew Brunette, of course. Like, I'm just saying I can play devil's advocate, and I'm not, because I don't necessarily think he should be kept. I'm not saying he should be fired. Like, I feel like despite how much I might seem like a Andrew Brunette apologist, I still feel like I'm fairly neutral on the topic. But another thing I will say, and I wrote an article on this very, very thing. When you look at the Boston Bruins, the start of the season, they fired Jim Montgomery fairly quickly into it after they started off slowly. And a lot of people there's a lot of times in hockey and in sports in general, people think, oh, maybe the team just needs a new voice here and this kind of thing. And that can work. But again, I said in the article, that can go against you when you have unrealistic expectations about, coaches elevating team personnel. The Preds issues have been well documented. I've mentioned them. The Bruins had a lot of the same issues where their center position was bad. Their Their roster as a whole was getting older. Their goaltender, Jeremy Swayman, who they signed to a huge contract, had a really bad year. And that didn't change when Jim Montgomery got fired. He still continued to really, really struggle. And then they fired Jim Montgomery. The Bruins really don't get any better. But Jim Montgomery goes to the Blues, and they're thriving, honestly. They're deep in the middle of the series against Winnipeg. I think they're going to win the series personally. They go on a huge streak to end the year. And all I'm saying is there's a chance that, the Preds fire Andrew Brunette now. He goes on to be a good coach elsewhere. They fired a damn good hockey coach, and you don't want to be in that situation. That's why I'm saying I understand if you want to give him the next year to show, again, that he can be a good coach, prove himself, and give yourself every reason to know, okay, we gave the guy a chance. We thought he'd be a good coach. He didn't. Okay.
Well, let's just think about it from where the Predators sit right now in this situation. Let's think right now as we're recording this podcast. Let's just be honest with ourselves. If you were to fire Andrew Brunette tomorrow morning and announce a coaching search, okay, you're in the running. Mike Sullivan's the top prize. You got to outbid 8 other teams. Everyone seems to think he's definitely going to either Boston or the New York Rangers. But, I mean, it's so hard to pinpoint where a head coach is going to go when you're talking about, let's say the Preds became the 9th team. How do you know who he's going to pick? You don't know. It's not like getting a free agent player. And it's like, oh, like you can't get in that coach's mind that you're going for and think, what roster is he going to like the most? Which team is he going to like the most? Which city is he going to like the most? Which front? Now, I will say Barry Trotz has a lot of respect around the league. So I think that would help the Predators when it comes to a Mike Sullivan sweepstakes. I think Trotz is a pretty well-respected GM around the league and former head coach who I think another head coach like Mike Sullivan would maybe like to work with. And the Predators do have a lot of good pieces that I think a head coach like Mike Sullivan would be like, yeah, I want to go there. I want to see what I can do there. I want to see if I can get the most out of Stamkos in this roster but like you're going up against 8 other teams. So you can't just fire Andrew Brunette at this point because you want Mike Sullivan. I do not agree with that approach.
No, I mean, if you're going to do it, you got to be positive that you're getting Mike Sullivan, which that's hard.
And maybe behind closed doors, Trotz knows something. I don't know. That's the only way I could see this happening. The only way, and so I'll give that a very, very slim chance that the only way I could see this happening is if Barry Trotz literally fires Andrew Brunette tomorrow. And I never want to see anybody fired. So I'm not laughing about the fact of someone getting fired. But if Barry Trotz wakes up tomorrow morning and fires Andrew Brunette and Mike Sullivan's the head coach by the end of the week of the Nashville Predators, we'll know that behind closed doors, there was something going on. But that would look pretty dirty, would it not, Max? Would that not look
like the optics would certainly be questionable. Yeah.
And that would not look good on Trotz.
Not really. No.
Like, hey, we swindled you. Hey, Bruno, we were buddies. You were my first head coach I hired as a GM in the NHL. But I kind of went behind your back and got the guy I really wanted because he was available all of a sudden. I was going to keep you next season, but now I'm not because I like this guy more. I don't know. I just can't see it happen.
Again, we don't know that that's how it's going. So again, you never know quite, but if that is how it's going, then yeah, that's not good. But
no,
again,
I don't think that's what's happening. I think that Trotz is loyal to Brunette. I've been saying that all along. I don't think that any of this is going to happen. I think that Trotz probably sees Sullivan. This is just me speaking out loud. I don't have any sources. I'm just like you. I'm just sitting here on the sidelines watching. But my inclination is that Trotz probably sees Sullivan and be like, ooh, I would love to have him as a head coach, but I'm loyal to Brunette. I think Trotz is a class act, and he's loyal. He's going to remain loyal to Brunette. He's already – now, why he hasn't come out and made any comments about that, that's the part that really throws me off. That's the curveball.
Yeah.
We wouldn't even be talking about this right now if Trotz would just come out and say, yeah, Trotz, Bruno's my head coach for next season. But he hasn't done that yet.
Yeah. No,
that's the caveat.
Yeah. No, it'll always be kind of a mystery until we figure that out.
For sure. It's going to keep us dangling. That little carrot's going to keep dangling in front of us, wondering what next season's going to look like. We got to figure out who our head coach is going to be. It's weird. It's weird to not have a vacancy. Like I see all these other teams in the sweepstakes for Mike Sullivan, and I want to throw the Predators in that sweepstakes, but I can't because technically we're not vacant. But it kind of feels like we're vacant, even though we're not. Does it? You kind of get where I'm coming from here? It almost feels like we don't have a head coach. It almost feels like we don't have a head coach right now, even though we technically do.
Until you get some certainty, you kind of feel like you have a vacancy.
Yeah, that's how I feel. It's weird. I don't like it. Give me an answer, Trotz, one way or the other. Give the fan base an answer right now.
Exactly.
And that's bad on his part. I don't know like what he's waiting for. I really don't. But let's move along here. It's episode 267 of Catfish on Ice with Chad Minton and Max Greenberg, brought to you by DraftKings with our promo code THPN. And we got a good offer going on right now for all the NBA fans out there. Going to get it pulled up right now. Max, are you an NBA guy at all? This is my favorite time of year.
Very, very casually so.
This is my favorite time of year when it comes to because I love 7-game playoff series. Like it's my favorite playoff format. So even though I'm not a big regular season NBA guy, I am all in when the NBA playoffs start. I love the 7-game format. I love the superstars that are in the NBA. And just like same format when it comes to the Stanley Cup playoffs, I feel the same way about NBA. And so every night you're getting all these 7-game playoff series going. And it's just, honestly, for me, it's my favorite time of the sports calendar. It really is. And so let's tell you about our NBA offer right now with DraftKings for all of our Catfish on Ice listeners and viewers. The NBA 82-game grind is done, and now the real fun begins. The NBA playoffs are here, and it's time for the all-stakes drama, clutch moments, and jaw-dropping plays. I can't wait. If you're looking to make the playoffs even more exciting, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered as an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Try placing a bet on your favorite player's performance. My favorite player I'm watching right now is Anthony Edwards of the Minnesota Timberwolves. That dude's got that dog in him. I love watching him play. He went toe-to-toe with LeBron the other night. I know LeBron's 40 now, and it's kind of not fair because it's a young man's game now. But I love watching Anthony Edwards play. But there's plenty of other superstars out there. You got Steph Curry out there. You got James Harden. You got all these guys. They're going head-to-head right now. You've got so many great players out there in the NBA. LeBron's still doing his thing. Of course, the Lakers have Luka Doncic now. I mean, it's just endless, all the superstars that are on each team in the NBA playoffs right now. And you can bet on those players. Will they drop 30 points, 40 or more? It's your call. Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Make it a playoff run to remember with DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY. That's 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. New customers only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Let's get to our next segment. It's another big one. It's another one that's going to get people all up in arms and upset and a little bit in their feels. And that is Roman Josi, folks. He has been the charge of this team for a long time, especially since Pekka Rinne retired. He has been the lifeblood of this franchise. And it's going to kind of take us into another segment later tonight when it comes to relevancy around the league. Roman Josi has been that one player. I'll give Philip Forsberg that due as well. He's another one. But Roman Josi has been that one player that really gives the Predators some relevancy around the league because he is so dynamic. I mean, you just look at his career numbers, especially ranked all-time among all-time defensemen. He's truly he was one of the first defensemen to kind of take on the new era of defensemen who play offensive hockey. You know, when he came into the league in 2011, 2012, that was not the way defensemen played mostly. Now, that's how every defenseman wants to play. Transition. Now, I get it. Two-way style is still important. Just look at Cal McCarr. He is both. That's why he's a Norris Trophy finalist every year.
Quinn Hughes. I mean, not quite to that extent, but
no. But you still have to have a two-way game, but it's still predicated on offense now as a defenseman. I mean, you pile up the points. Roman Josi started doing that from a very early time, and he did it as recently as just over one season ago, not this past season, but the season before. 80-plus points, piled up the assist. But I'm just – the head injury has me really concerned right now. The team around him has me concerned. His age has me concerned, which is no fault to his own. So I'm just wondering, is Roman Josi coming out of his era of dominance? And do the Predators have to start realizing that, for one, they're going to have to find a really good line mate to play with him to extend his effectiveness. And two, they better start getting these prospects ready to come up, because I don't see a lot of answers right now in terms of free agency. So what do you think about that? Do you think that Roman Josi still has a little bit more in the tank in terms of, I'm not saying being a quality player. I definitely think he's got a couple years. I'm not saying it's the end of Roman Josi. What I'm saying is his normal dominance of what he's been, what we've come to know. Is that dominance over? Is he about to become an everyday, decent defenseman? He can get some points. He can get some goals, maybe 40, 50 points a season. But is his downward spiral about to happen?
It's kind of hard to say, really. First of all, it all starts with the head injury, and he's had multiple concussions in his career. He's even had, I think it dates back to the mid 2010s. People have been talking about his concussion history, and of course, I'm no doctor. Neither is Chad. We can't talk about we can't go deep into the medicals of it. All I can really say is, if he's not well enough to come back, he's not well enough to come back, and that's just how it is. And And, they said at the end of the year the concussion was still lingering. So I am mildly concerned that, I think he'll be okay for next year, but I don't know.
Well, he said he is. He said he's going to be ready.
Okay, fair enough.
He did say in an interview that he's going to be ready to play, and then he's coming along well, and all that. So I do think he's going to be ready to play. My concern is when it comes to a head injury, and I'm not trying to be negative here. I'm just trying to be objective and honest here.
Yeah.
You're playing a very brutal sport, physically demanding sport. And I worry about not only his mental psyche, not saying he's not mentally tough. Obviously, he plays hockey. He's a mentally tough freaking person. What I'm saying is I worry about that at his advanced age of 35 years old. I worry about, is he one hit away from really doing a lot of damage, and how is he going to be able to play? But I'm also thinking from a hockey standpoint, what the Predators have in the pipeline, they got some good prospects, but just thinking about Roman Josi, if he is ready, if he plays game 1 of this next season, which I expect him to be, I don't know. I mean, Justin Barron, it seems like the slot in to put in there, but is Justin Barron going to bring out the best in a aging Roman Josi?
Oh, yeah, no. I mean, granted, if we're not, say, we do assume he's going to play next year, it's kind of hard to say what we think he's going to do because, obviously the older you get, you could fall off a cliff any year. But at the same time, elite players are elite players. Even if they do have off years from time to time, they could easily rebound the next. And with Josi, it really is hard. It's hard to know what to predict. It really is hard to know what to predict.
What's crazy though, so in my article I wrote for Predlines covering this exact topic, and it's what's made me think about making this a topic for the episode, is just doing my deep dive on Josi's analytics and his numbers. He only played in 53 games last year because of the concussion, and it ended his season. His fewest games played since 2012-13. So basically when he first got in the league. He's never played that few of games in a season, not counting the pandemic year. That's weird. He's always been an Iron Man. But like the crazy thing that I saw that actually gives me a little bit of hope is even though his points dropped significantly, it gives me a little bit of optimism that he was just a product of his system because the entire team saw a drop in point efficiency. Every player on that team, excluding maybe Nick Blankenberg, saw a reduction in their offensive production. So, like, it's not like the team flourished and Roman Josi was the outlier that didn't produce. You know what I'm saying, Max?
Yeah, no, for sure.
So, but his underlying, I found this very interesting. You know me, Max. I like to go deep into the money puck analytics. I found a really crazy one. So, Roman Josi, his expected goals per 60 minutes was a 0.61, which actually led all NHL defensemen.
It's insane.
Expected goals per 60 minutes, which I always like the per 60 minutes because it actually gives a good weight of, okay, what is this guy actually doing on a large sample size? Because you don't know about ice time and all that stuff. So, like, it weighs it out. Scientifically speaking, I really like that stat when it breaks it down per 60 minutes and not necessarily per game. And the fact that he led the league among all defense, that shows me that he actually does still have that offensive drive to his game.
Yeah,
and who knows what he could have done without the head injury that happened from Sam Bennett February 25th against the Panthers. I mean, you watch that hit slow motion, and it's you can totally see why the injury happened.
Yeah, absolutely. That I personally didn't know that stat about him leading the league in expected goals per 60. That kind of
for a defenseman.
But okay, that's pretty impressive. But it also goes back to another thing about the Preds this year that was a huge reason why they were so bad. pretty much their entire team forgot how to score goals. Their finishing was so bad. And that's one of those things you really can't blame on a head coach. Like that comes down to executing your chances. And the Preds didn't do that this year. I mean, that's
For sure.
that's really on nobody but the players. And a lot of people, hate to hear like just something that's just on, but that's really that's on the players, just not converting chances.
Yeah. So when I asked this question about is this the beginning of the end for Josi, I do think I think his Norris Trophy nomination days are behind him. I hate to say that, but that doesn't mean he can't be a top 10 defenseman in the league and even a top 5 offensive defenseman in the league. And so that's kind of where I fall with it. But it really falls on the Predators figuring out how they're going to arrange their decor next year. That really is where I fall on it. I do think that Yossi's got more left in the tank. I don't know how much, and another hit really scares me coming from a head injury, but I do think he's going to be ready to go next season. And I do think he can still put up plenty of offensive numbers that can really benefit this team, especially on the power play. He's still going to be your power play quarterback. The Predators desperately need Roman Josi to still be their power play quarterback. And so let's just really talk about it, Max. Like, who is it going to be? Justin Barron? You're thinking right shot defenseman. I know Roman Josi could play right side and play with Brady Shea.
I mean, I probably the best way to maximize him. I mean, based on who's still on the roster, maybe Blankenberg could be his line mate. I mean,
no.
I wouldn't. No. I mean, or maybe you put Lauzon on the left and Josi on the right.
That's what some people have told me, actually. I've gotten the argument from a few people on social media saying that Josi needs a protector. He needs someone who's going to be his bodyguard. But I don't view Jeremy Lauzon as a top pairing defenseman. But if that's all you got, but I mean, I think this franchise desperately needs Justin Barron to just overperform. I hate to say it, but
you know who are the 2 players that could have realistically paired with Josi? Dante Fabro and Alexander Carrier.
Oh yeah.
Thank you, Barry Trotz.
Hey, Dante Fabro is going to be a UFA this offseason.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll want to come back.
We can have a reunion.
I mean, I've kind of floated it too, but I'm sure Dante Fabro has no interest in that.
I'm sure that the Columbus Blue Jackets are going to do everything they can to keep Dante Fabro.
Yeah, for sure. I will say on the Josi front, and maybe I'm jumping on a little bit, and people will not like to hear this, but just hypothetically speaking, this is coming up in the one offseason. I've thought most about the possibility of trading him more than any other. Now, I'm saying I absolutely want it, but it's crossed my mind more than it has any other offseason.
Yeah. I mean, I think that right now, when they go into training camp, unless they make a unforeseen free agency signing of Aaron Ekblad, they're going to go into I do like Nick Perbix of the Tampa Bay Lightning as a depth defenseman, but I think that when it comes to finding a top pairing defenseman in free agency to play with Roman Josi, they don't have a lot of options right now.
I mean, it all goes back to that. There unfortunately is just no quick fix with this Preds team right now.
There's not a quick fix,
and that's why I say, as much as it might seem like a hot take, I don't hate the idea of the Preds trading Josi if the right opportunity comes along. I don't.
Yeah. If that were possible, then sure. But I think right now the organization is going to really hope that Justin Barron can. But I don't even think that's a good match on the top pairing, because now you've got 2 defensively liable defensemen on your top pairing.
Yeah, I mean,
because Justin Barron is for all the offense he does bring, he brings speed. He has a decent shot. He is a absolute nightmare in the defensive zone.
Oh, he's terrible.
And Josi is not going to be confused as being an elite defensive defenseman.
I would say he's at least functional, but
do you really want that as your top pairing?
No.
But I just don't know. Maybe Jeremy Lauzon is your best bet, but that's if that's your top option, that's your top option at your top pairing. Then RIP to Roman Josi's numbers because
I mean,
I hate to say it, but
yeah, I expect in one way or another.
It's not looking good, is my point.
And probably all likelihood Josi's bet on the Preds next year. I'm not saying I expect it, but the Preds got to look at their defense. I feel like they should make at least a move or two to like just kind of shake things up, just because the left side is so crowded. It's ridiculous.
So if somehow Aaron Ekblad hits the market, would you be okay with Barry Trotz doing everything he can to get him?
Let's not do this again. Let's not do what we did last offseason. No.
So what do you do then? He's your bet. He's the top prize in free agency when it comes to defensemen, and he plays the right side.
Maybe I don't know.
He's 29.
You may have no choice but just to take it on the chin that it's not going to go well. I don't know.
You either do that or you. This is why I'm so angry at Barry Trotz for not committing to what he wants to do right now.
Right.
Because we're riding both sides of the fence right now. We keep playing this retool game. Like he already said in multiple interviews with local media. I've read articles on the Tennessean from Alex Daugherty, from all of them, where Barry Trotz said, "I'm not in the business of not winning. I want to win now," which is all fair and good. I get it. That's good political talk, but like that tells me he's going to go for an Aaron Ekblad.
That's where it goes back again to what I was saying, like an article I wrote back in the beginning of March, where maybe Barry Trotz being a head coach, you're kind of seeing it affect him as a GM. Because again,
that's a good point. I remember
as a head coach, your thought is just win every night. You're not thinking about what the team's looking like. You're thinking about what can I do with the pieces here.
Let me just say he's not going to get Aaron Ekblad.
As a GM, though, you have to be realistic and think about the team. Not just now. You think about now too, but think the pros and cons of now versus 5 years down the line. And if Barry Trotz is going to keep trying to straddle this line, or of winning and or like retooling and competing, or like outright competing, it's not going to go well. Again, there's just no quick fix to this Preds team. I don't want him to go crazy in free agency, but I would like him to make some tweaks. I really do like Nick Perbix of the Tampa Bay Lightning. That makes more sense because, again, that's more of a depth signing. You're not going to pay as much, and that guy
could be a second or third pairing defenseman. He can kill penalties for you.
That could overperform his price tag,
and he can be a culture guy. But I agree with you, Max. You can't go big game hunting this free agency.
No.
You can't.
And
do it.
What are you paying Aaron Ekblad? You're paying him at least $7 million. You paid Brady Shea that.
Yeah, but I think that Barry Trotz is going to think that way though. He's gonna. I could be wrong, but it wouldn't surprise me at all.
I don't disagree. I will say. It's not so. Again, I'm not. My trust level isn't so low in Brutonette. My trust level is pretty low in Barry Trotz. Right
He's
now.
trying to extend these guys' window, even though there is no window. He's trying to extend that window as long as he can, and just to really hammer it home when it comes to Roman Josi, I think Barry Trotz sees that his coveted veterans are getting towards the end. The window shuts really fast for these guys. And he went out and signed these free agents last offseason to try to extend that window. I think he's got one more year to really just go for it, and then it all blows up. I think that's how he sees it right now.
Yeah, I have no idea.
But Roman Josi, I don't know. I'm worried for Roman Josi, not based on just his individual play, but the team around him and the system around him. It's going to be really hard for him to stay at a high level. There's a lot of factors involved. But let's get to the next topic here, and that is let's talk about the most irrelevant teams. Would you consider the Predators one of the most irrelevant teams in the NHL? Let's say top 5.
Unfortunately, yes.
When it comes to national circles, when it comes to if you polled NHL fans from every fan base. I think the Predators would probably fall in the top 5.
Yes, I think so.
I think the only reason the Predators get a lot of talk around the league is banner jokes. 2017, people will bring up, 2017. They'll bring up PK Subban a lot. I'm just going off when I talk to fans. I've gone to a lot of away games, and I always like to ask this to fans. And a lot of times they'll be like, oh, yeah, you guys had PK Subban. Oh, I remember that time you guys went to the Stanley Cup final that one year. Or, oh, yeah, you guys had Pekka Rinne. He was pretty good. But it's never like a conversation of, oh, man, the Predators. That's a real franchise right there. Like, I mean, unfortunately, until the Predators – I mean, the fact that this team has been in the league for 26 years, been to the playoffs 16 out of 26 years, and they've only been to one conference final, one Stanley Cup final. That is I mean, it blows my mind every time I see that. The fact that they've made the playoffs 16 times and only made it past the second round once.
Yeah, I know.
And this is why fans are so done with it. This is why so many fans are actually really excited like we just won something. I mean, the most excitement this fan base has had in a long time for a lot of the fans right now is the fact that we're getting a top 5 draft pick. That's where this fan base has been pushed to. This is the limit they've been pushed to, is that they're actually excited about a top 5 pick. Like, I think there's a segment of the fan base right now, a large segment of the fan base, that is more excited that they got a top 5 pick than they would have been if the Predators won a first-round playoff series this past year.
Absolutely.
Because now we have a chance to actually draft a generational player. And, I mean, unless all the scouts are just universally wrong, then it looks like the Predators are going to have a hard time screwing this draft pick up. I'm just going off of what all the scouting reports are saying, what all the mock drafts are saying. The top 5 of this draft class, really the top 8 of this draft class, looks really good. And so the Predators are going to have a chance to draft a really generational future player. It's almost going to be impossible to screw this draft pick up if you're the Predators, no matter how the NHL draft lottery unfolds, whether they pick 5, 4, 3, 2, or 1. But that's where the fans are at this point. That's where they are.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough state to be in, but it's true.
So some other irrelevant teams over the last 5 years. I'll say one, and they're actually in the playoffs right now, and they just won tonight. I would say the Ottawa Senators.
I was saying them too, yeah.
And they're actually starting to really break that reputation. They're starting to become relevant around the league. But, for the longest time, I literally never thought of the Ottawa Senators. I mean, as a Predators fan, you only play them twice a year. The last time I thought about the Ottawa Senators up until maybe a year ago when I realized they were starting to build something special. The last time I thought about the Ottawa Senators was the Stanley Cup year for the Predators, because we watched the Senators lose to the Pittsburg Penguins in the Eastern Conference Finals that year.
Yeah.
And that game went to overtime. And I remember the Predators were already in the Stanley Cup. And I remember watching with my buddies, and we were all hoping the Senators would win that series because we thought we would have a much better chance of beating the Senators.
Everybody said the same thing.
But I would call the Senators one of the most irrelevant teams in the NHL over the last 5 years. Yeah. But they are completely shaking that reputation.
Yeah, absolutely. They are.
Brinkett. They got Linus Ullmark, who just had a shutout tonight.
They did trade to Brinkett a few years ago.
Oh, yeah, they did. My bad. Wait, yeah, that's right. He plays for
Detroit.
Yeah, that's right. But they did make some. They got Cousins. They got Cousins.
Yep. Cousins. That is correct. Dylan Cousins. Yeah.
I was getting my players mixed up. I'm so sorry. But yeah. So my point is the Senators are starting to become relevant again. But I would call them one of the most irrelevant teams. Give me one, Max.
They're a fairly storied franchise, but just from the past few years, I would say the Philadelphia Flyers.
I agree with that.
I have not hardly thought about the Philadelphia Flyers, and they were the weirdest franchise for a long time. It felt like in the 2010s, and maybe it's not quite, but it felt like through most of the 2010s, They would have 1 year they make playoffs, next year they wouldn't. They would go in that same exact like repetition for like the next 10 years. But ever since like the 2020, 2021 season, I believe it is, they have not made it.
Yeah, no, Philadelphia is and that is a storied franchise. But they have definitely become irrelevant around the league, and they shouldn't be irrelevant. I mean, for what they are as a franchise,
and just that city itself. I mean,
yeah, I would call, even though they're an expansion team, I would call the Seattle Kraken irrelevant.
I thought about that, but just the fact that they were an expansion team kept them just off my list.
But that's all they have going for them is their expansion team. If they weren't an expansion team,
yeah,
I mean, like no one really ever talks about them. They're kind of like middle of the road, but they did not enjoy any of the fanfare that Vegas got. I mean,
they weren't winning as much.
They shot up like a bottle rocket. They were up and gone like that. Like everyone was like, "Oh, cool, another expansion team." And then they just, let's say hi to Lindsay real quick. What's up, Lindsay? She says, "Hello, friends." She says, "Let's go Kings."
Oh yeah.
Of course, we know.
Hopefully for her sake, they can hold a lead till the end of regulation.
We know that Lindsay is a diehard Flames fan, and yeah, her no love lost there with the Edmonton Oilers when it comes from Lindsay. So it's a 2-2 series. That series, another series, it's just been absolutely bonkers in the first round of the playoffs. Okay, another irrelevant team.
This is another storied franchise, but just based on the past few years, Detroit Red Wings.
I don't know if I can go as far as saying they're one of the most irrelevant teams. They're definitely irrelevant when it comes to what they are.
I mean, just in the past 5 years, though.
I got one. I think the New York Islanders are completely irrelevant.
I thought about them too, but they did have those playoff years of Barry Trotz in the early half of the last 5 years. But that is
fair.
I did. One other team I put on there, and I honestly don't see how this can be argued a ton, the Anaheim Ducks.
Oh, yeah. Completely irrelevant. That's a good one.
Nobody. I was just at a game.
They got Trevor Zegras, and that's it.
I was just at a game in their home arena. That's about the most I've ever.
How were the fans? How were the fans?
Pretty fine. They were pretty fine. There were a few fans
treat you with respect?
But cool? it was all good at that. It was all good at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. No offense to any of those fans, but they've been pretty irrelevant since the Corey Perry days when the Preds knocked them out.
Since we played them in the playoffs those years.
Yeah, I mean, they have been irrelevant for a while. They had Trevor Zegras. They do have a young talented core of players that they're kind of waiting. And they actually did show some promise this past year. I'll give them that.
In the little latter half. In the beginning of the season, I was kind of like, where are they going? But they did show a little bit of
But they are very irrelevant. I mean, they don't have much of a home atmosphere. They have one of the worst logos in the league. They should go back to their old school logo when they were the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim.
They did.
No, I'm talking like the old school, the super old school one.
They rebranded this year. They got new orange uniforms and all that.
No, I'm talking like the original, the OG.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, I would say that it's a step up from what they previously had, but yeah, I guess you're right.
I'm thinking like, yeah, the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim, but yeah, that's a good one. They might be the most irrelevant team.
I will say, though, my buddy who I was with loved their DJ.
Okay.
There's one thing they got going for them. They got a good DJ, apparently.
Yeah,
I'm not much of a DJ connoisseur myself, so I wouldn't have a huge opinion.
But just to show everybody that we're not biased here, me and Max both agree that the Predators are fair game to be included in this conversation.
100% are.
The only reason why we're not saying the Predators is because we're a Predators podcast. So they're not irrelevant to us, obviously.
Yeah, I put the Preds on my list.
I think they are.
I think so
when it
too.
comes to outside perspective around the league, I would not argue with anyone if they came up to me and they said, "Yeah, your team's irrelevant." I can't push back on that. They don't have playoff success. Yeah, they make the playoffs. They lose in the first round when they do make the playoffs. They lack a lot of superstars. They became relevant this year, but for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
You know, like they didn't seize it. Like going into the season, there were analysts out there picking the Predators to win the Stanley Cup. because they got Stamkos and all these guys. So for a very short amount of time, they were relevant. On free agency day, they were very relevant. Everyone was talking about them. They stole the show on free agency offseason day one last year in July. That's all they were talking about. No one talked about any other signings that day because all they could talk about was the Predators and Stamkos and Marchessault and picking up all these guys, and they completely fumbled the ball. And now they're back to being irrelevant again.
It also shows you really can't build a team in free agency. And that's why I say there's no quick fix of the Preds. You can't build a team in free agency.
Well,
contrary to what we wanted to believe last July, you really can't build a team.
Will you take all that back if year two of all three of these free agents somehow have a better year? They get more chemistry. They get more.
If you really go far in the playoffs, then probably, yeah.
Because, I mean, let's be honest here. Trotz didn't sign these guys for 1 year as rentals. I'm just playing devil's advocate here. He signed them all for multiple years. So even though this first year went completely off the rails, you didn't sign them thinking, okay, it's this year or bust. I guarantee you Trotz is thinking that right now. I didn't sign these guys for 1 year or it's a bust. So he's still thinking year two, we can still do something special.
I mean,
my point.
It just I'm not going to go too far down this rabbit hole, but if you look at for example, the NFL, except for the LA Rams, everyone who's even been in the Super Bowl has been a really good drafting team. NHL's probably a little less cut and dry, just because I'd say,
because it takes forever for these prospects to be built up.
But even still, like a team like the Florida Panthers, a lot of their guys weren't drafted, but they traded for a lot of those guys and they gave up legit assets. Point being, you can't just patch and fix.
Well, to Trotz's credit, he keeps saying that's his priority. Is he knows these prospects are coming up. He knows that he's got a good prospect pool that's coming up, but he always harps on protecting the prospects. Like, I don't want to thrust them in too soon. I want them to be protected by the veterans. I want the veterans to lead the way and have the prospects play behind them. And that's kind of like his motto right now.
Maybe he needs to adjust that mindset a little bit.
I mean,
I understand obviously I understand not wanting to take a guy in his first game and play top line minutes, but give him maybe a little more responsibility.
Well, that's why I keep saying he's playing both sides of the fence here. It's comments like that from him what I think he's doing right now. He wants to have it both ways.
And that's where a lot of people are like, dude.
He wants to say that we're a young team with young talent and blah, blah, blah. But then he also does these dumb moves like losing Dante Fabro for nothing, which we all knew that was a dumb move at the time.
Gave up Alexander Carrier for a not nearly as good asset.
I mean, we'll see what Justin Barron does. But, yeah, it doesn't look good at all for a one-for-one swap. No, it doesn't.
Not one bit.
But, the prospects are coming, and we can be excited about that. There are a lot of good – Fedor Svechkov can really change the whole outlook of 2025-26. So I did a solo episode last week on that you can check out on the podcast platforms. We didn't put it up on YouTube, but you can go listen to it. And I made my case for Fedor Svechkov being one of the most critical players to a bounce back next year for the Predators. He is my top player that's most critical to a bounce back for the Predators next year, because he's going to have to do what Tommy Novak couldn't do. And he is kind of Barry Trotz's, maybe his lifeline. I don't know. If Fedor Svechkov decides to just erupt next year, be one of the great young players to erupt next year, he could be Barry Trotz's lifeline, Max. If he could play a second line center role. And my dream is that he plays with Luke Evangelista.
That's what I'm saying. That's the other guy. Who, if he has a good year next year, then potentially we have the future could be looking pretty bright.
It still doesn't solve the fact that Ryan O'Reilly is going to have to be your top line center.
There's still a litany of issues with this team.
But if they could at least solve that, let's say Stamkos becomes a really strong mentor and facilitator to bring out the most out of Svechkov, because that's kind of what Trotz talks about here. Trotz talks about the veterans blending in with the younger players. What more could you do than having a line of Stamkos, the future Hall of Famer, playing alongside Evangelista and Svechkov. I would love that.
That'd be pretty good, especially because we know Stamkos has good speed. So.
I'm not saying it's going to be perfect. I'm not saying it's going to mean the Predators are suddenly going to be this great team next year. I'm just saying baby steps here. Let's try to get better. Let's try to build for the future. If Stamkos is here to stay for a while and he's going to be a mentor, I would love for him to mentor Evangelista and Svechkov. I think that'd be really cool to see.
That'd be great.
But yeah, I mean, we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But anyway, we went on some tangents there in our most irrelevant teams, but me and Max both agree that the Predators should be in that conversation as an irrelevant team. Let's do our love to hate rankings real quick. We don't have to rank them all, I guess, but just list some players. My top player, and these are players we love to hate, but we would put them on the Predators in a heartbeat. So there's plenty of players I don't like in the league, and I also would not want them on the Predators.
Right.
Corey Perry's one of them. But these are players that I love to hate. Like, I hate watching them play, especially against my team. But they're not likable at all. But if they're on the Predators, I would totally cheer for them. Sidney Crosby is my top one for me.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, I don't like him. Like for instance, when I see Alex Ovechkin play, I just instantly just love the guy. Like, I just love the way he plays the game. I love the way he carries himself. Sidney Crosby, and I guess it's just because I'm just like a bitter Preds fan from 2017, but Sidney Crosby is one of those guys I just love to hate.
Yeah.
But I recognize his greatness. If he was ever on the Predators, obviously I would be like running to the game store to buy the Sidney Crosby jersey, but he's probably got to be my top one right now. What about you, Max?
I didn't necessarily rank him in any top order. I'm not saying all these guys I necessarily hate personally. I think one guy, though, that's got to be on the top of pretty much everyone's list, though, is Matthew Tkachuk.
Yeah. I think he earned a lot of good faith when he did in the Four Nations, though.
Yeah, I would say so. USA. But that Brad Marchand as well.
Brad Marchand's always going to be up there.
This isn't anywhere near as a notable of a player, but Ryan Reeves.
Oh, no, I don't want him on my team. No, thanks. I got a good one here. And I love to hate him because he's so freaking good and he plays in the division and he's so unstoppable and he always shows up and he's just like, you know how great he is and you just hope that he's just going to go away and he never does. But Nathan McKinnon.
I wouldn't hate Nathan.
Well, no, I don't hate any of these guys. I love to hate him. I love to watch his greatness and just be like, damn it, I wish we had him on our team.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
And he carries himself in a very cocky way, too. Like, he's just like a very, like, stoic, like, he has no facial expressions. He just looks like a robot out there. And so he's hard to connect with on a human level because he just looks like so, like, business-wise and locked in that if you're going up against him, you're just like, damn it, I hate you so much. Why can't you be on my team?
Yeah, and
that's where I'm coming from there.
I've definitely heard of Nathan McKinnon. Like he may not be like necessarily like the nicest or like, most connected guy, but like he's just a guy who goes out in there, plays hockey, and just wants to win. That's really all he cares about.
Jamie Benn's another one I get from a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Tom Wilson had the big hit in the playoffs these past few days. And he's always going to be one that everyone can't stand. But if he's on your team, you're going to be happy about it. I got a coach.
Who?
That I love to hate. But if he was the coach of the Predators, I'd be okay with it.
Bruce
Rod Brind'Amour.
Oh. I was going to guess Bruce Cassidy for some reason.
Okay. That's fair. No, Rod Brind'Amour. I can't stand that guy. But I recognize he's obviously a great head coach.
Oh, he's awesome.
But I can't stand that guy ever since the playoff series with the Predators. I don't know. Like, he got kind of whiny in that playoff series, a lot of his press conferences. And ever since then, I've not liked the guy. Did you see the lookalike at the Avs Stars game? The guy dressed just like Jared Bednar, like in a Halloween costume. Oh my God. Let me find it real quick.
That's hilarious.
I'll put it on the screen. Hold on.
Speaking of Broad Brindamore, his team is currently in double overtime right now. If they score, they win the series.
All right, Jared Bednar lookalike. Max, you're about to really laugh hard at this one. I lost it. Find a good pic of it. There it is. That's a good. All right, let me zoom in here. All right, let me put it on the screen for everybody. Let's put it on the screen for our YouTube viewers here. Let me get it all pulled up here. So this guy, like, it was like he went for Halloween. It's like he dressed up for Halloween to be Jared Bednar, and he's literally sitting right behind Jared Bednar on the bench. So it just
this was in Colorado, right?
This was in Dallas.
This is in Dallas.
Yeah.
Oh,
there it is, right there. Wait. Where'd it go? Hold on. This is
not Jared.
It's a video. Hold on.
And now look what we have tonight.
There it is. Sorry, the video was playing.
That's pretty funny.
I didn't realize the video was playing.
That's pretty good.
And like, I mean, I don't know if he was trolling him or if he knows Jared Bednar or what, but that was awesome. He has it's not even like the perfect get up, honestly. Like,
that's one of those things. I wonder how Jared Bednar can coach that entire game with a straight face, knowing that guy's just behind him.
I know. But anyway, that's the stuff I live for when I'm watching the playoffs.
That's hilarious.
I mean, that's great. Yeah. All right. So with that said, Max is yawning. I'm getting tired as well. But we still have to get our Titans time segment in real quick. My dog's also getting antsy. She's ready to she's like, Daddy, you're done. You're done talking hockey for the night. But we are going to talk. I really want to talk about Cam Ward here. We are just a small pot. And I know you want to talk about the rest of the draft class as well. That was the Titans. Apparently, I think they had a good draft class as well.
I was really impressed.
But we're just a small podcast. But I do want to give a lot of love to Cam Ward. We're excited about you, man. We're excited that you're here. I really respect your story and where you came from. The fact that I saw tears coming from this guy as a number one pick. Everyone knew he was going to be the number one pick. There wasn't a lot of suspense, but to still see that raw emotion come from him was a really awesome human moment that I saw there. Of course, ESPN didn't talk about it a lot. I don't want to bang on ESPN. It's whatever. They have their reasons. You know, Shedeur Sanders was the big topic. So I don't even want to harp on that much. But I just want to focus on Cam Ward because he deserves it. He's a great professional. But Max, from the football standpoint, what are the Titans getting in Cam Ward? What did he do in college? What does he do really well? What made him the consensus number one pick in this draft? What does he do really well?
A lot of things
that we should be excited about.
Where he really makes his money, just purely as a player, is his ability to extend plays. He makes plays happen out of the pocket, scrambling when it's not there, looking downfield, and just again just being all kinds of creative. When the play breaks down. But he still loves to play in structure. He's still good at going through his reads. He's good at processing defenses. He knows what he's looking for. He's a smart player. I'd say
so he can run a pro style offense in the NFL.
Yeah, no, he should be able to. And he likes to do all the he loves to do the off platform stuff. But at the end of the day, he still does like to play in structure, and he still makes a lot of plays in structure. So. Yeah, no, Cam Ward, he seems like he fits in a lot of ways for the offense Brian Callahan wants to run. And, he can run too. He's certainly not like a Lamar Jackson style runner or anything, but he can still gain you some yards on his feet. There's a few things he's got to clean up. Number one, the risk taking. He does get into some bad turnovers, certainly not like Will Levis, at least not at the same rate, but he does have to happen to him occasionally. He also, I have seen him struggle sometimes to make deep throws on the sideline of the field. And I'm not totally positive how fixable that is, but, overall, Cam Ward still does a lot of really great things. But I think part of it also where Cam Ward really won the Titans over was, him personality-wise. And we talk about, the raw emotion he showed on Thursday night when he was drafted, when he knew he was going to be drafted. don't let that fool you though into thinking Cam Ward is kind of like any sort of timid guy. No, Cam Ward is like known as like an alpha leader. Everyone
I saw real quick, Max. I saw. Did you see the video? I don't know if it was at a pro day or it was some type of throwing something, but it was him and Shedeur Sanders, and Sanders was like, you know, like, which I'm not saying there's anything wrong with like having fun and goofing off, but Shedeur Sanders was kind of goofing off and asking him about like when's he going to come out with his top song, his top hit. And Cam Ward kept saying, I'm a football player. I'm a football player. I'm a football player. And Shedeur was like trying to like bait him to like get into this like back and forth, like joking around. Like, and Cam Ward was like all business, just like, I'm a football player. I'm a football player. I'm a football player. I'm here to play football. It's just like, I don't know. Like, it's just like Cam Ward's built different.
No, I absolutely love it. You know, there's stories about Cam Ward people tell. You know, he went to Washington State, a program that was kind of in the dumpster, has been in the dumpster for a lot of their years. He comes in, makes them super relevant. You know, a lot of people have talked about it. I one time watched one of my favorite Titans podcasts, the Music City Opera podcast with Justin Graver and Justin Mello. They had this one guy on there, I believe his name was Travis Wingfield. He talked for 50 minutes just about the player Cam Ward is, just how he changed the culture at Washington State from just being completely in the dumps to just get to being relevant. And you know, people talk about the same thing at Miami. Of course, Miami is a bit more notable than Washington State is. One story that really made me look and be like, okay, this guy is an alpha. There was a story one time that Cam Ward had a throwing session for his receivers and his tight ends. One of the receivers didn't show. He calls the guy and he's like, dude, where are you? You're supposed to be here. And the guy apparently says, I'm going to do this throwing session with Lamar Jackson. And Cam Ward says, last I checked, you're not catching passes from Lamar Jackson. You're catching passes from me. Get here where you're supposed to come. And the guy just looked, okay.
He's all business, man. I love it.
Yeah.
All right, so real quick, talk about the rest of the draft class. Just hit on some big ones. I know they got a tight end. They got a couple receivers. They try to do some things to give Cam Ward some weapons maybe, but just hit on a couple guys real quick.
I'll try to go quick as I can. One thing I will say that I honestly didn't know how I was going to go, the Titans really seem to put a big emphasis on at least football character in this class.
Yes,
and also good dudes as well. The first guy they got after Cam Ward was this guy, Femi Oladejo. He's an edge rusher at UCLA, a guy who actually has not been playing the position very long, a developmental prospect, but he basically went into the middle of last year having never played the position before, and he does pretty well. And he gets 4.5 sacks in 9 games, which is pretty good for a guy who's never played edge and doesn't know pass rushing moves really at all. And he was also an off-ball linebacker, so he offers versatility. And also, he's one of those guys, and I actually saw a thing that I actually really loved about him. I'm probably not going to talk about the rest of these draftees as much as Oladejo, but I saw a video of him where he's basically talking about, you know, I just don't understand people who are so egotistical that they can't say, like, he's always one of those guys who's talking to everyone, like, hey, how are you doing? Good to meet you. Good to see you. This, and that. He brings all the energy on the field. It's infectious. I could see this guy being a captain in a year or two. That's how pumped I am. After that, I'll go through the rest of these draft picks.
They got the receiver.
Before that, in the third round, the Titans drafted a safety, Kevin Winston, out of Penn State, a guy who honestly might have gone early second round. The Titans said they had an early second round grade on him. He did partially tear his ACL during last season, but he did run a 4.5 140 at his pro day, I believe. So he's okay. He's recovered.
All right.
He'll be at training camp. He'll be fine. In the fourth round, the Titans took the 3 pass catchers. They took number 1, Chim Dike, in the first pick of the fourth round, a guy who's surely going to play slot, at least in his first year. He's a smaller guy, but he's fast. He's pretty good at running routes. He also contributes on special teams as a gunner and a returner. Lord knows the Titans could use help there. So Although I'm sure he will never be like at least in this first year, he won't be a big guy like X receiver beating press coverage, even though he is fast. He'll be a slot guy, I'm sure. After that, we took a tight end, Gunnar Helm.
I heard good things about this guy.
Yeah, tough dude, it seems like. Cool story about him, actually. If you look at his combine numbers, they're really bad, but they're deceiving because he actually, I believe, he rolled his ankle pretty bad at the combine. you actually look at the photos, they're pretty disgusting, but he still played through it. He still tested through all that. And of course, and everything else I hear, he says he's a really good dude. He's versatile. He's a hard worker, all that kind of stuff. So nothing but good things I've heard about Gunnar Helm.
And that was a need, right, for the Titans was tight end. They needed to get another
not the biggest need in the world, but again, it's about planning for the future. And the Titans,
and you're trying to build around Cam Ward.
Yeah, exactly. And after that, the Titans, my personal favorite pick of the draft, actually, I talked about the Oladejo pick. How about Alec Ayamanor, receiver out of Stanford? He's going to be your big, fast X guy.
And I saw the video with him going up against Travis Hunter.
He got 290 yards and 3 touchdowns against Travis Hunter in 23. Yeah. Crazy. But again,
it's one game.
One of the steals of the draft. Like every one of you talk to is like, how the hell did this guy last?
And I was kind of watching those middle rounds, and when I can't remember what round it was, Max, but the Titans traded back when they were going to take that one receiver, Luther Burden was his name, I think.
Yeah.
And everyone was freaking out, because he was on the board. He was Missouri, right? Missouri wide receiver. Yep. And everyone was like, and I was even thinking, Titans are about to draft this guy. And then it popped on the screen, Titans trade back. And I'm like, what are you doing, guys? I get you're getting an extra pick out of it, but your guy was on the board there. But it appears to me like maybe they still got a good receiver after all.
Well, also on that, Luther Burden I know he has real character issues.
Okay, well, so there you go then. They're staying away from the character. Okay, that's good. I'm okay with that. That's a good reason to do that, and they got an extra pick out of it, so that's good.
The Titans also, when they took Oladejo, they passed on Mike Green from Marshall, a guy who really should have been a first rounder, but he is all kinds of off the field. So apparently he has.
That's good. I like that. I like it.
Sexual assault case and stuff like that. So
I really like that the Titans are weighing more character over talent, because that's what you really have to do here if you're the Titans. You have to build the culture. I know it's so corny, but it's really so true.
Trying to change the culture,
and it's every sport. It's not just football. It's hockey as well. It's all sports. You got to build that culture first. And then you can start being a good football team who can actually do special things. Yeah. And we all know that, the Titans are very different than the Predators right now in terms of the Titans kind of know who they are. They know that they got a long ways to go. They know that they've committed to the rebuild. They know they got to rebuild. Whereas the Predators are kind of like an identity crisis team. Right. They don't know who they are. At least as a Titans fan, that it's going to be some tough sledding for a while, but let's buy into it. And I think if Barry Trotz, let's bring this back to round out episode 267. We can bring both of our Nashville sports teams together here and make this point. If Barry Trotz was more willing to just say look, not saying hey, we're going to suck for a while, get over it. I'm not saying that, but just commit to a certain plan. Trotz is just all over the board right now. It's so helter-skelter. It's so hard to understand what Trotz is doing that's where the frustration's coming from when it comes to the Predators fan base. I think as a Titans fan, you can at least appreciate, and still there's plenty of reasons to be upset with the Titans right now.
Yeah.
In terms of what they've done to lose A.J. Brown, to fire Mike Vrabel. But anyway, I'll leave that alone. But anyway, at least the Titans are committing to what their plan is, and we know what they're doing. And so I thought it was a really encouraging draft class as well. So, Max, thanks for breaking that down, man. And it makes me feel better.
There's a little more actually I want to talk about.
Okay.
Yeah. There are a few more draft picks. I'll kind of go rapid fire these as much as I can. They got a guard / center, Jackson Slater out of Sacramento State, big school exactly. Actually, the guy I would say has a pretty good chance to start next year, either guard or center. He's an athletic player, and he also did pretty well at Senior Bowl. I saw one rep where he clamped up Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss, who was a first-round pick. So that's pretty good news right there.
Yeah,
they also drafted another depth corner, Marcus Harris out of California. I'm sure the guy won't start or anything. And who knows, maybe he'll end up not being much. But again, you can never have too many corners. And also, that's one area on the team where I actually think the Titans are actually well coached. So I think you never know what could happen there. And then they also drafted in late in the 6th round, they drafted running back Kalel Mullings out of Michigan. Guy's only played running back for 1 year. He won't be more than running back depth at this point, at least in 2025. But he's only played 1 year, and he supplanted Donovan Edwards, who was supposed to had a lot of hype going into last year as the number 1 running back on Michigan. So that
was a good team.
Yeah. And also after the draft too, one undrafted free agent I want to talk about. The Titans signed Cam Ward's college teammate Xavier Restrepo from Miami. They slot receiver he's gonna be in the pros. He went undrafted. I presume because his pro day was really bad. His 40-yard dash is like a 4.8, something really slow. Apparently, I did hear that his hamstring had been acting up all week prior to his pro day. So that could explain something.
So they got a good receiver that should have been drafted, most likely.
Essentially, yeah. And like if you actually look at like his college performance, like the player he was a pretty damn good player. But the Titans drafted him like shortly after the draft ended. They called him and got him on the team because apparently Cam Ward was in their ear like.
I saw one of those AI Twitter accounts that basically like did an AI generated. They like asked like an AI bot how Cam Ward's first 5 seasons would go, and in year 5 it shows a generated image of Cam Ward winning Super Bowl MVP and the Miami receiver, like standing next to him with the Super Bowl trophy. Like these AI pictures are getting creepy these days, and it really didn't even look like Cam Ward, but it was just funny. But like it projected Cam Ward's stats for like the next 5 years, his first 5. It was like, I don't know. Like I saw it.
It's funny. Like again, Cam Ward like was in the Titans' ear like that entire Saturday apparently about like drafting Restrepo, and they even said on the phone call to Restrepo, like I saw a video of the phone call the Titans made to Restrepo, and they even said like Cam's been in our ear. He's wanted to get you on the team, so we want to bring you here, which is pretty cool.
All right, good stuff. I'm excited about the Titans. I think that they're finally starting to lay the groundwork down. It's going to take a long time, but at least they're laying some groundwork. All right. So as for the Stanley Cup playoffs, real quick before we sign off, last I saw the Canes and the Devils were in overtime.
Carolina won.
So Carolina's the first team to win the first round.
They're off to the second round. That was one of the least compelling series that was going to be in the whole.
And the Devils were already, their stock was way down.
New Jersey was injured to hell and back. I mean, they didn't.
And I haven't looked at the TV for a while. What's going on with the Minnesota Vegas?
I have on Edmonton, LA right now. They're tied 1-1. I got to see. Minnesota Vegas might be in intermission right now.
Yeah, it looks like it's in intermission.
Yeah, it's still 2-1 over in Vegas.
Okay, yeah, 2-1. Second intermission, Vegas is winning. Eichel's got 2 assists in the game. I've really enjoyed PK Subban and Mark Messier, their coverage in the intermission reports. That's been fun. I think they're a good combo.
To listen to them their unserious moments.
I think they're a good combo in the studio with Steve Levy. I think ESPN's got a good trio of guys there. I enjoy all their coverage. So ESPN's trying their best to become a serious NHL coverer again. But all right, Max, it's been a lot of fun. Episode 267 of Catfish Ice. That's a wrap on it. We appreciate all of you. We've been presented by DraftKings and part of Hockey Podcast Network. Hit subscribe on YouTube and hit us up in the comments on social media, on X and on Facebook. Until then, everybody, have a great night. We love you. Take care.
See you guys.